If you think of yourself as a VR user who requires at least an average standard of graphical fidelity for immersion, you might as well skip this video because I'm about to pull the lid off the very disappointing and supremely ugly can that contains Hitman 3 VR Reloaded. Only recently I was reminded this is in fact a MetaQuest 3 exclusive, which personally made me laugh because this not only looks bad for a MetaQuest game, this looks bad for VR period. After witnessing Batman Arkham Shadow in the headset a couple of weeks back, the bar has now been lifted in terms of what Quest graphics are and how they are to be perceived. Where Hitman 3 VR Reloaded sits is not below this bar, it's below any bar for any VR game I've played to recent memory, and I can only hope no one new to VR comes across this VR version of the amazing Hitman 3 game, because with such a massive IP, I believe these new players will not only refund the game within maybe an hour, they'll potentially want to stay away from standalone VR for quite some time, because Hitman not only looks terrible, it also performs terrible too, with pretty severe pop-in, which the devs have now told me is being addressed with a patch releasing soon, but I can only report on what I've tested and seen myself. It's actually impressive how bad this game looks. But wait, there's more. You'll also be pleased to hear it's not just the visuals that are disappointing. You're about to witness not only one of the worst looking VR games, but also one of the most poorly implemented and ported VR games I have ever reviewed on the channel. And before I throw another log on this awesome bonfire of a game, I think there's something we all need to understand. Buried deep below the visually offensive exterior is the real Hitman 3, the brilliant, clever, fun murder game we all know and love. So for all its VR sins, it plays and is laid out exactly the same. So I'm not saying Hitman 3 is a bad game. It's actually a very good game, as we all know. But what I am saying is what we have here is the worst version of the game. Pushing aside the PS1 visuals, I still somehow had a good time. Replaying some of the missions I know really well was still enjoyable. And if you played the previous Hitman 3 VR releases on PCVR and PSVR, it plays exactly the same, which was unbelievably janky, but there is still a good game to be found. However, you're a better man than me if you can tolerate this abomination of the Hitman franchise for more than a few hours. The more I played, the more it felt like a weak, ugly, self-loathing, annoying, distant cousin of Hitman 3. And with all the extra features the developers have mentioned, like dual wielding, the new cel-shaded art style, overhauled user interface, and the improved movement system, I would still rather play the PCVR version. Actually, I would rather even play it on the blurry PSVR version with the ancient move controllers that had no joysticks than play this. Even the stuff I like most about Hitman, which is playing it completely wrong and just killing everyone and shooting random people. When you shoot someone, you're rewarded with like a dust effect instead of blood, and it really doesn't feel like anything. It's simply not satisfying. The only satisfying thing I did was launch a screwdriver into someone's face, but with these ported Atari graphics, it makes it hard to enjoy.
Jesus H. Christ! Someone help me deal with this asshole!
Even running up to NPCs to punch them, sometimes you just see your fists go through their head multiple times. And then there's using the fibre wire. For some reason, when I got it ready and went to put it around someone's neck, it just goes through their head. I just can't seem to manage to strangle anyone with it, and I don't even know why it's even in the game. Then there's the difficulty of working out where to start in the list of VR no-nos this game has, but I'll start with button presses. Oh yes, every interaction in Hitman 3 VR Reloaded in 2024 is a button press. You want to reload, it's a button press. Then the auto reloading animation, well, I mean, why do we even have reloading animations in VR anyway? Not being able to manually reload a gun is insanely dumb or just lazy in 2024. Also, all the doors have strange door handles that only sit about 1 to 2 foot high. Luckily, you won't need to pull the door handle, not that you could actually move it if you tried to grab it, but this is also a button press. Another thing I found quite amusing is climbing. You don't actually need to grip anything to climb, you just press A and then slide up and down with up and down on the joystick. It's just a very weird sensation in VR to experience a movement system like this. You can't grab a body with one arm, and I don't mean physically, you can of course grab it with one arm, but the game then sticks both arms to the NPC's leg, which is just a strange thing to see. And sniping, well, this completely floored me, to be honest. It's just a flat screen. Ultimately, it just feels all too much for me to accept and pull any positives from this experience. In real life, as a gamer and not a reviewer, I would have probably stopped playing this after 30 minutes, and that's just during the tutorial, and pretend it probably never happened. But for this review I pushed on, and I'm a tiny bit glad I did, because as I said earlier, Hitman 3 is still a good game. I like playing it, but I just don't want to play this version. It's just so ugly I can't take it seriously. honestly. The pop-in, which they said they are addressing, is the worst I've ever seen in any video game in memory. And the amount of aliasing is honestly tragic, and this game kind of deserves a trophy, because I don't think I've ever seen an IP butchered by VR so hard in the 7 years I've been covering the technology. So there it is. I don't want to waste any more of my time or your time talking about it. Hitman 3 is a good game, but this version is not good. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.